All right, it tells me I'm live. Hi guys, we are back for the afternoon session, so we should be starting up again very soon. Hold on, and we'll be right with you.
It's like a raffle.
Yeah, it's actually it's a 50 draw.
Okay.
So the drawing is going to occur at this time, Sunday, August 3rd, at 6 p.m. Now, unless Rick Rick can change the time and announce it. I picked 6 p.m. But it's up to Rick to maybe to make an amendment there, change it.
I think we're only going till 3:15 on Sunday.
We are okay. Then I'm going to make it.
Yeah.
I can change it right now to 3 o'clock.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I have the
Conclusion. Yes.
I have the pen over there, and as soon as I'm done with the announcement, I'll go over there and I'll scratch this out. I'll make it 3 p.m. But I'm going to announce right now 3 p.m.
Okay. And you do purchase tickets?
Yeah, and each
Let's go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be getting together again right now. First, I want to introduce Larry. Larry's going to be explaining the 50/50 round.
Thank you, Norman. I'm very happy to announce that right now we have a wonderful little opportunity to offer to all the delegates of this convention. It will be a wonderful thing for one lucky winner. We're going to have what's called a 50/50 drawing, a 50/50 drawing. And as you can see here, each and every ticket has a serial number on it. Each and every ticket will cost $5. Each and every ticket has an actual ticket, and it has a keep this coupon. So on Sunday at 3 p.m., we will have a drawing at that time where we're going to have our executive chairman, Rick, will have a blindfold on, and he will stick his hand in here into all these tickets, stir them up, and he will pick one lucky winner. And if you happen to have the lucky winning ticket, then you will receive 50% of the pot. So let's say, for example, altogether, $1,000 worth of tickets were sold. I mean, just to pick a number. So the lucky winner then at that time will receive $500 cash instantly. Now, also, we're going to make one other little provision. Someone might say, well, I'm here at the convention today, Friday or Saturday, but I got to leave. I won't be home. I won't be around on Sunday. In that case, anybody that wants to, on the back of your coupon or in the back of your ticket, before you stick it in, if you want, you can write your name and phone number. So if you're the lucky winner that's picked on Sunday, but you're not here, but we picked your lucky ticket, and it says John Jones, phone number such and such, we'll call you immediately and say you're the lucky winner, and we'll make sure that you get 50% of the take, of the pot. So anyone that wants to can see me at any time to purchase one of these tickets for $5 each. And it goes without saying, you can purchase as many as you want. Somebody already purchased some. Somebody already purchased some, got us started. There's 10 tickets in there right now. That's $50 worth. We got to start. So anybody that wants to try to be a lucky winner, this is the chance. And finally, I know you're thinking, well, what happens to the other 50% that the winner doesn't take? Well, I say that goes directly to Mr. Fran. So it would be, in my example, it would be $500 would go directly to him to use as he sees fit. Or if there's some kind of a suggestion here with the delegates, someone might say, well, maybe Rick wants to designate the remainder that goes to him to some special cause. So it could go either way. That's going to be a decision for the executive chairman to make. So thank you for your time. I'm going to probably be trying to hang out right up here up front where maybe in intermissions or at any time you can come and contact me to purchase your lucky ticket or tickets, plural. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. I want to welcome you back from lunch. Right now, we're going to be hearing from Joe and Fran Garino, former Jehovah's Witnesses from Utica, New York. Joe and Fran have been very open about their experiences with the Watchtower organization and the difficulties it's caused for many individuals. They've been, they shared their insight in the podcast on the Six Greens Tele-Network and on their YouTube channel, Fixing My Faith. They also are actively involved in organizing gatherings and fostering connections among ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. Visit Fran and Joe at Table 8, where you can purchase JW-related merchandise. I just met Joe just a few moments ago. Fascinating gentleman. Looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you.
Where are you gonna be?
You say.
Oh, if you just stand here on either side of this mic, it'll hear you. What? Yeah.
Okay.
On either side.
Okay. Well, hello, folks. We're very glad to be here. This is the most important gathering that we've ever had among people that were in the Watchtower organization. It's the most important gathering ever. And to me, this is like a synthesizing out of all the ones that are willing to love each other. And I appreciate that. I really do. Go ahead.
One thing to add to what Rick said about 1975, is Rick here? In 1975, July 12th, 1975 is when Joe and I met. Okay? We were not Jehovah's Witnesses. We were Catholic, and we had a worldly life. So I just wanted to put that in there.
Yes, so we met each other in the world. In fact, that's where any of you are going to find your treasure, your love, your life in the world. So treasure that. It's the world is where we live. It's our lives. Yes, yes. And in all honesty, the courage that you and all of us are displaying and coming out like we do is the only way that we will find that. There's a saying, I'm not smart. I like to listen to a lot of smart people. It says that the treasure, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. So it's our fears that are really the thing that prevent us from becoming who we are, who we're happy to be. Sometimes the easy way is to wait for someone else to tell you, hey, this is the place, this is where it's at, this is what you want, this is what you like, this is what you need. And unfortunately, there's a lot of dishonest people who would study us and find out what we like, what we're afraid of, what we feel that we need, and then they'll offer it to us. They'll offer it to us what they see us, what we crave. And wow, that makes our life easy, doesn't it? And it really doesn't. It doesn't. It just makes us open for manipulation, for exploitation. And that's what the Watchtower has done. The Watchtower are master manipulators. They know us better than we know ourselves. It's the truth. That really is the truth. They know us better than we know ourselves. But now we know ourselves a little better. And we're trying to use that knowledge of ourselves in a way to, well, not only benefit ourselves, but to benefit each other. And I think that's what we're doing. I think we're benefiting each other. I really believe that.
Just a little, I mean, a lot of people know about us, but just a little bit. We were Jehovah's Witnesses for 36 years. Like I said, we grew up Catholic. So when we were 33 years old, we started to study. And we were 70 years old when we found out about the child sexual abuse. We have 4 grown children we raised as Jehovah's Witnesses, and they still are Jehovah's Witnesses, and they are shunning us. They're in their 40s, and we hope that they are happy with what they're doing. We tried to talk to them, but they did not want to know anything that we were finding out. Of course, you know, we were apostates, so we just after a year of being PMO, we disassociated. And so that was 3 years ago during the pandemic, like a lot of people. But our goal was to meet as many people as we could that are out and form, Joe called it a directory.
Yeah, no, the goal, it's like being an antidote to what the organization was doing. The punishment for wanting to leave was isolation. They split people up, they isolated families from each other, because they know that if they allow families to stay together, they'll infect their minds with truth, the truth. And the truth wars against that organization. So they rightly split families up. And it's no secret, because that's not new. That is not new. Every authoritarian regime in history has done that. And it even went back before the Nazis. The Nazis in Germany split families up. They divided family into loyalties and disloyal, because they knew that a family could be too strong against the government. So they divided the family into individuals and extracted individual loyalty from each member. That way they were weaker against the government. Watchtower did the same exact thing. They knew that. Rutherford, the second president, knew that. He observed what was taking place in Germany during that time. And he realized what was happening there. And basically, they just imported it from Germany, imported it also from the Russian Soviets, the same way of doing business. And anyone who knew history or lived through it recognized what was happening. The problem is most people didn't recognize it, because here it comes in under the guise of a religion, truth. What could be better than truth? Truth. The only problem is there really were signs along the way. And one of the signs was that the Watchtower, which they called their magazine Zion's Watchtower, really was a political movement. Zion was the goal to restore an area of land to a people who felt that they deserved it. And that same thing is going on today. Well, they didn't keep the name Zion's Watchtower for very long, because I think they figured people would catch on. But it doesn't come under any confusion that far from being a religious organization, it's really a very political organization, very political organization. Basically grooming people as slaves for a government. And then all the wording was there. You're good for nothing slaves of the Most High. Who's the Most High? Well, they weren't being too specific. Even when they were being dishonest in so many ways. At any rate, not everybody goes along with it. Not everybody likes the lies. You don't like lies. I don't like lies. We find out that they were lying. some people will continue to live that lie. They'll go along with it. I don't, you've probably observed it yourself, that you object to something that you know is a lie, yet your partner or the person next to you didn't have a problem with it. They'll go along with it. They'll accept it. And I mean, this is where even some of the words in the Bible are, I think, are very true, where it says that they exchange the lie for the truth. You know, come for truth, feed them lies, accept the lies. And now there's people that are literally living lies. And there are people literally living what's true, period. And what I personally and we personally maintain is the only truth there is. The only truth there is our truthfulness. Me. If I'm telling the truth, that's the truth. If you're telling the truth to me, that's the truth. We're truthful toward each other. And here, unfortunately, there's so many people in the organization, maybe my children included, our children included, who have chosen to live untruthfully. And they're not living truthful. But yet maybe they're convinced that this thing called the truth, an ideology, is going to bind them together. And we're all going through this. You know, your families have been split apart to many degree. And what it's turning out is that there's a higher value for worshiping or honoring something outside of yourself, outside of family, than family. For some people, there's something far greater than family. For others, there isn't. We're at the point where we realize that relationships that we form with each other are the most powerful family that we can have, because they're truthful. They're a rejection of lies. And we are very thankful to be a part of it. We'd like to see it continue to grow.
Yeah, we've taken on so many children, people that call us, people that text us, email us, because we put our phone number out there, 315-221-0130. We have a website, XJWFriends.com. Email jandfgarino@gmail.com. We have cards out there. We'll give you a card that talks about beware Jehovah's Witnesses. It's got our information on it. So.
And the goal for all this is that you deserve each other. See, you don't deserve to be split off from each other. We don't deserve to be split off from our family. Well, at the very least, we need to be reunited with each other. And that was our goal. Our goal was just simply to help be an antidote to what the society was doing in our small way. And in the process, the first person that contacted us, and then the second person, and we connect those two people, and then into more, and they keep connecting. It's worldwide connection of people. Now,
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
it's a beautiful thing, and
Really.
also it prevents. There's so much depression and suicides of people who were isolated from their families. It was very real. I mean, there are stories of that.
The other thing we do are meetups. And Rick says, how do you guys do it? You're traveling, you're 73, you went cross country. We said, Rick, we take naps. We take power naps. Matter of fact, this would be our nap time, but we're here.
It's okay. It's okay. We're here because you're here.
Yep.
We're here for inspiration. You inspire us. We seek to help to do the same thing for you. Like I say, let's not let each other down. Let's keep that inspiration going. And as some very special folks say, let's keep living our lives with love.
We love you.
Thank you, Fran and Joe. Thank you for sharing and for your ministry. Up next, we have a former Jehovah's Witness. Oh, you switched out, okay. A man who needs no introduction. Rick Barrett.
So you guys having fun yet or what? Well, I must say, I'm impressed. I'm really, really impressed. You're all smiling faces. You make me feel very enlightened. I feel really good to look out and see all my friends. So anyways, I'll get right down to this. You probably say, well, how did this all happen? How did the 6 Range network ever get started? Well, I have to tell you, back in 1989, I was a real good Jehovah's Witness. I mean, I had no issues, not called into the back room. I was living in Florida at the time. I had 5 Bible studies, doing my 10 hours a month. And I was, in their mind, a very good witness. Now, what happened in 1989, when I was living down there, my wife, former wife, that is, her name was Inez, and she was taking a course in journalism at the local college. She was a newspaper reporter on a small little newspaper. She loved the job. So her car wasn't working that day. So I took her to the college and I went to, so I'll pick you up at 1 o'clock. So I came back at 1 o'clock and there was an ambulance there. And there they were rolling my wife out on the stretcher. I had no idea what was going on. So I said, what's happening? And all I could hear my wife saying is, no blood, no blood. That's all I could hear her saying. And so I asked the teacher, the professor, and I said, what's up with my wife? What happened? Well, we don't know. We don't know. So they put her in the ambulance and they said, follow us to the hospital. So I was right behind them and the lights were flashing, the sirens were going. And then halfway to the hospital, they shut it all off. So I figured she died. So I followed the ambulance to the hospital. I just moved down to Florida with 5 children. So, it was really kind of like a real shakeup. So I got to the hospital and the nurse says, you better go get the kid. She's not going to make it. I said, is that right? Yeah, and they said, yeah, she's not going to make it. So he said, well, I'm not going to let the kid see it like this. I'm not going to get the kids. If she dies, she dies. It's a sad thing. So anyways, the doctor came running in and he told me that Inez had a brain hemorrhage. And he says, we have to operate immediately. But he said, Mr. Farron, brain hemorrhages can be fatal. He says, a lot of people don't recover from it. So anyways, he went in, he operated on Inez, and of course the elders came up. They didn't send the liaison commission, but they were concerned about Inez taking blood. But I have to tell you the truth, I would have gave her the blood. There's no question in my mind that I would have. So consequently, the brain surgeon came out after he was in the operating room for an hour. He said, Mr. Farron, he says, it's a miracle. Your wife is going to be okay. She's going to make it. The blood stopped on its own. Usually it doesn't. He says, usually when you get hemorrhage like that, it'll kill a person. But it stopped on its own for some unknown reason. So that was good news. So anyways, she was in the hospital for 7 days. And I took her, she wanted to go to the meeting. She was a real loyal Jehovah's Witness. And she wanted to go to the meeting. I mean, even when she was in the hospital, she wanted to go. So what they did with her, because she had an operation on the side of her head, they shaved part of her hair. So she looked like a punk rocker. Seriously, she had a strange looking hairdo. So she says, Rick, I want to go to the Kingdom Hall. I want to go this Sunday. I said, Inez, you just got to the hospital. I want to go. So I took her to Kingdom Hall. We walked in and some sister, and this is really what I have to say. Now, I'm not saying all Jehovah's Witnesses are like this, but we know that a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, that they don't have any class, that they really don't. So the sister come up and says to my wife, geez, Inez, I don't like that hairdo. So Inez says, I just got out of the hospital. She says, I had a brain hemorrhage, didn't you hear? So, she didn't need to hear that. So then on the other hand, at the end of the meeting, an elder came up. I'm standing next to Inez, and he says, Inez, you're here today. He says to her, Inez, I'm so glad you're here. We were going to send you some flowers, but we didn't think you were going to make it. That's exactly what he said. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine saying that to a person? But this is kind of common. of things that goes on in the Watchtower. Now, I'm not making this up. I'm sure that all of you have heard ridiculous statements like that, right? So anyways, what happened is she recovered, and there was a sister that was coming down from New York, and she was an anointed sister. She was an older anointed sister. Could have been Inez's mother, and she was somewhat blind. She wore sunglasses, and her and Inez were working service. The sister was an anointed sister. And you know, in the world of the witnesses, the anointed, they don't get much credit at all, right? So anyways, one day Inez said to me, she says, Rick, she says, I got something to say to you. She says, can you take me out to breakfast? So I said, sure. So I took her out to breakfast, and all of a sudden tears started coming down her eyes. She says, I got something to tell you, Rick. She says, I really have to tell you. It's very, very important, but I don't know how you're going to react to it. I mean, I didn't know if she was going to leave me, if she had something to say that was a major consequence. I had no idea. And then she said, well, Rick, I have to tell you, my hope is no longer to live on paradise earth. My hope is to live in heaven. So, you know, at first you hear that, and then she started crying and tears started coming out of her eyes. I said, well, that's a good hope. I said, if that's your hope, Inez, my goodness, I think that's a darn good hope. And she says, yeah, but what about you? I said, I'll be all right. I'll be all right. And then, you know how things like this spread around, right? So all of a sudden, I've got Inez, my wife, anointed. I'm still a member of the great crowd, you know? So my hope's to live on earth, her hope's to live in heaven. So the brothers and sisters in the Kingdom Hall, they had a hard time with this. This doesn't make any sense. How can Rick deal with this? So I remember a couple invited us over to supper, and we're sitting there, and you know, sometimes rude statements by Jehovah's Witnesses, not all, but there'll be rude statements, they hit below the belt. So we're sitting there at supper time, so the brother says to me, Rick, you must be having a hard time. He says, how can you live like this? With your wife going to heaven, you're gonna live on earth. And I mean, my answer was, hey, look, I can only live on one planet at a time. Let's wait till we see what happens, you know? But anyways, what happened is Inez recovered, and she started partaking. So she says, you know, I'm going to go to the Kingdom Hall, Rick, and I got to talk to the overseer and tell him that I'm going to partake with the memorial. Now, this was a couple of months and the memorial's coming up. I says, Inez, don't tell them. I'm going to tell you, you tell them, and they're going to come up with every reason why you shouldn't take of the emblems. So anyway, she said, no, I got to go. I said, well, I'm coming with you. I'm coming with you. So I took her to the Kingdom Hall. She spoke with the presiding overseer, and she says, I have to tell you something, Richard. She says, I now will be partaking at the memorial. And he almost had a heart attack, seriously. So he reaches out, he reaches out and he says, wait a minute. He says, Inez, you've had mental issues, right? She says, I mean, this really, I mean, she felt like punch him in the nose. She says, Richard, I never had mental issues. This isn't a psychiatric thing, it's a physical thing. It doesn't affect your mental abilities. So anyways, he didn't like it, but she said she was going to partake. And I felt so bad when we went to the memorial that year and they passed around. There was a good 250 people there. And of course, they passed the plate and the wine around. Now you imagine, now just to give you an idea, the Anointed, the Watchtower organization, won in about 2,500 to 3,000 is an Anointed. And she was the only Anointed one in the whole Tampa Bay area. And it was really something. I mean, imagine the pressure on you. You go into the Kingdom Hall, you know, everyone's at the great crowd. You get all these respectful observers coming in. And it's almost like a sporting event. Well, they're passing the wine. There goes the bread. Well, there's what line is stopped here. Well, let's take a look at what's going on. She's drinking the wine. She's eating the bread. I mean, it's like that. Kids are standing up in their seats. People are looking. It's like, it was like a dog and pony show. Seriously. So anyways, geez, I'll tell you, she was really, you know, really upset. I mean, really, you know, almost having an anxiety attack over the whole thing. So anyways, we came back and I said, I never see, you shouldn't have told them that. And so now they're really questioning. So the word was spreading around that she's really not. She's not anointed. She's not. And you know how that would work. And I've counted in Watchtower publications 15 reasons why you should not partake. Now, that is a strange thing, isn't it? That is a biblical understanding. True Christians are partakers. But in the Watchtower, they got to make it very, very special. So, I started reading the Bible, and I then started saying to me as well, Rick, I don't think the Watchtower is really right on track with scriptures. So anyways, what happened is in 1993, I didn't tell my wife this. I says, something, after reading the Bible, I find out that I'm anointed. That's what the passages say. I don't see anything here about people living on earth in a physical body. I don't see that. There's nowhere in the scriptures. So I didn't tell my wife this, but in 1993, I went to the memorial and I partook. And I'll tell you what, I wasn't going to tell anybody because I know the shame that they put you through. So anyways, I partook, and then, I said, I can't believe what you're doing this. It kind of shocked her. But, she went to one of the elders, and the elders said, hey, look, he's in good standing and he's anointed. Now, the male in the organization, they get credibility. If you're a male and you're anointed, you are the king of the mountain, right? If you're in good standing, that is. You can't be some drunken character out there and claim that. So I was in good standing. So I was now of the anointed class. So they look at it as a special thing. But anyways, I continued to read the Bible, and that's one of the things that got me out of the organization. I'm not preaching to you, but there's about 20% of Jehovah's Witnesses leave the organization in terms of not being correct with biblical passage. It's not there. They make a lot of this up to fit their agenda. So anyways, what happened is I got attention. I was 55 years old at the time, and I got attention from the congregation. They treated me really good. Everybody would come to me. They wanted me to do the talks and all of this. They wanted me to do all of this. Well, he should do it. He's the anointed brother. So this is what was going on. So, but they wouldn't believe Inez, but they believed me. So anyways, the governing body got attention of this. And what they did in the year 2000, I got to know Garrett Loesch. He's a governing body member even to this day. And I got to know Loesch. I called him once to ask him a question, and I told him who I was and what was going on up here in Massachusetts. And I told him that a lot of the anointed, what I was doing is I was trying to find anointed ones at congregation conventions. And I would go to the convention, a regional convention, at the time they called it district convention. I'd go there and I would walk around with 4,000 or 5,000 people. And I'd walk around and I'd say, do you know anybody in your congregation that's anointed? Oh yeah, Sister Smith is, but she's a loony woman. And this is what, and then everyone I went to, well, Brother Jones, he drinks a lot. He's an alcoholic. Every single one. So I came across 10, and I was in search of the anointed, because I was saying, well, wait a minute, I feel this. I want to see if there's other witnesses do the same thing. So I contacted, most of them were women, and everyone but one was getting ready to be disfellowshipped. And I couldn't believe that. They're getting them on fraud, drunkenness, all of this stuff. I'm saying, this is weird. So Brother Loesch, he actually thought, and he called me the outside anointed. So he would call me, we'd talk together. He said, now, Rick, I really want to know what the outside anointed are thinking. I says, well, I'll tell you right now, there's 9 of them right now going to be disfellowshipped very shortly. So he says, well, why don't you come down here? He says, I want to talk to you. I got some thoughts I want to run by you. So he called me. He said, bring your wife down. So we went down in the year 2000. And we talked with Brother Loesch. I was there for a good part of a day. And what it was an interview. It was an interview for a potential position on the governing body. Now, they don't call you in. They play all kinds of games. This is a cult. And the way cults work is very, very different than the normal business world. And they play all kinds of games on you. And I don't have the time to go into all of that. To make it short, after visiting with Brother Loesch, he took me in with the governing body meets. He showed me saying, he says, now look at Rick. He said, brother, call me Brother Fran. He says, they don't this isn't on the tour, the fourth floor here, but I want you to see it. He's showing me where the governing body meets every Monday. Do we have a clip we can show up there, Scott? The clip for? No? There's a picture of me and Brother Loesch there, yeah. It's not in? Yeah, I think it might be in the bottom. I want you to see this picture. Yeah. So anyways, we were there for a good part of the day, and we came home, and my wife and I were thinking on the way home that, something's wrong. Something is wrong. This is not a religion. This is a business. It really, really was. And right outside of Brother Loesch's office, he had this big picture. I mean, it was like 5 by 5, and it was of the faithful and discreet slave. And it was an Israelite with a big turban on, necklaces and jewelry and coins and money. And he says, "Look at that picture, Rick. What do you think of that?" Because I know there's no pictures like that at the Kingdom Hall, right? You can't have a picture like that in the Kingdom Hall. So they have them all over the fourth floor at Bethel. So anyways, he says that, he says, you know what, he says, what do you think the faithful and discreet slaves, what do you think their whole thing is when it comes to wanting to look over Jehovah's goods? Is it all? There is right there. There I am, yeah. So that's Brother Loesch. That's me, of course, in the middle. It doesn't look at me now, but that's 25 years ago or so. But that was us there. And so when we left, we really realized that this is not a religion. It's just a big business masquerading as a religion. So anyways, we came home. He said, that's it. We have to let people know what's going on. So we came up with this idea of we have to expose the Watchtower. We have to expose the Watchtower and let them be aware of the fact and tell people about them, home, our relatives and friends. Of course, they wouldn't listen to us. But anyways, what happened down in Brooklyn at the time of 25 Columbia Heights? In 1992, there was an Awake magazine. On the back of the Awake magazine, there was an article there about the Nephilim. Not the Nephilim, but the Nephilim. And what the Nephilim were is these were people who would help build the Israel temple. The temple was in Israel, and they were not Israelites, but they were just helpers. And they would actually help build, and they were the carriers of the lumber and the hewers of wood. So that was right on the back of the Awake magazine. And Brother Loesch says to me, he says, Rick, he says, the phone is ringing off the hook here at Bethel. And people are wondering, there shouldn't be governing body members that are not anointed. He says, it shouldn't be. That's what they're calling up about. They don't want them all anointed. So that's what they had in mind. And to this day, I'm so thankful that I never bid for that. And he kept sending me letters from Uruguay and Paraguay and all through South America. And after a while, I just did not want to get interested at all. But now what I was interested in doing is exposing the Watchtower, because my children wouldn't talk to me. So he says, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to protest. So I made up a bunch of signs, and they were spelled right, by the way. This one's spelled wrong, I just noticed. But they were spelled right, and I had Brother Borgie here was with me as well. We went down to the Kingdom Hall on Memorial Night, and we were out there. I try to get as many people as I can, but not everybody wants to get into protesting. That's not for everybody. So we protested in front of the Kingdom Hall, and the elders had no idea. I was still a card-carrying witness at the time. So all of a sudden, oh my goodness, 4 elders coming out. What are you doing out here, Rick? I says, I'm a little mad right now. My children won't talk to me. So I want to expose the world and let them know what goes on. Well, you're going to hear more about this and what have you. So finally they did. They did this fellowship made for apostasy. But I'm glad I was disfellowshipped. And I knew there was going to cost friendship with a lot of people, because I knew a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, and they were really, really nice people. But we didn't take the position. I'm glad I didn't, as I say. But we started the 6 Queens of the Watchtower. And the reason why we really got this going is I was doing YouTube back in 2009. And there was only 5 other people doing YouTube videos. And so my daughter was the one that got me involved with this. She says, hey, Dad, let's go down to the Kingdom Hall, and you can talk about how you disfellowshipped in this very hall. Well, that got 1 million views, and I couldn't believe it. And so I said, Jamie, this really works. She said, Dad, you ought to keep doing this type of stuff because it really, people are seeing it and you're helping so many people. So one day I got a call, and it was quite the call, I must say. A man called me from Florida. He says, Rick, I was watching your YouTube. And he says, I was just fellowship this week and I was going to go home and blow my brains out. He says, but I saw you on there and you were talking about how you were disfellowshipped and how life is going. It's getting better as you're moving forward. So he says, I was going to get in bed and shoot myself. But he says, I turned on YouTube and just saw if there might be something on there about suicide or about just fellowshipping. So it popped up at the 6 screens of the Watchtower. Well, he was so thrilled over this that he came up, he says, Rick, he got a hold of me through YouTube. And he says, can I come up to your house? He said, I live in Florida. Can I come up and see you this weekend? I says, yeah, come on up. I mean, I didn't know the man from a hole in the wall. So I said, yeah, come on up. You stay with us. I had a big enough house. So he came up and he stayed with us all weekend. And then all of a sudden, as I continued to do these programs, podcasts, there has been 12 people that have come forward and actually said, Rick, we would have killed ourselves if it wasn't for the 6 screens. But because it's like a giant therapy session. And we have people calling from all over the world. And I have to tell you right now, do you realize how many PMOs there are? We've been taking surveys. Now, I can't tell you, don't take it to the bank and cash it, as they say. But I can't tell you for full credibility how many PMOs there are right now. But right now, it's estimated 4 million PMOs. Now, that is a pretty accurate figure. And we've been, talking about this on the conference calls here for the last 2 years, really. More and more people are saying, that's it. They're just going to the meetings in a perfunctory fashion. They just know what's going to happen to them if they leave. So they're just going through the motions, so to speak. But I am getting emails from people, as I was telling you earlier, my family's getting out, my whole family's leaving. And it's really remarkable, the amount of things that are going on right now for people leaving. And the governing body knows it. I don't know if I don't expect you to keep up on the latest Watchtowers, but I have to because of what I do. So a lot of the last 6 months, they're talking about disloyal ones in the congregation, ones that, don't get too close to them, make sure we don't too much fraternizing with them. And if they're not totally loyal witnesses, kind of get away from them. I mean, this message has been subtly brought out and it's getting heavier now. And the governing body realizes there's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that don't believe this. So the organization right now is saying there's 9 million Jehovah's Witnesses. So you got, say 4 million. Say 4 million. It's almost half, right? It's almost half of the people that don't believe this. Now, how long can an organization go on with 4 million disgruntled people? I mean, if the Hilton Hotel had disgruntled customers, they'd have a hard time booking rooms, wouldn't they? They would. So, I mean, this is what's going on. And more people get up and packing the bags. And you guys know everything that's gone on. I'm sure many of you have been following it. But the Watchtower, there's going to be a talk here Sunday from Stephen Unthank from Australia. And Stephen Unthank was on our program a couple of weeks ago. And he investigates the money part of the Watchtower. And he's saying right now that the Watchtower, they have a whole lot of assets, but cash poor. Okay, a whole lot of assets. And they got property all over the place, Kingdom Halls, Bethel buildings. But the cash flow is not there. People just aren't putting the money in like they used to. So consequently, what's going to happen is, according to Unthank, it's and they've been laying so many people off. And Stephen's going to talk all about this. If you don't stay for Sunday and hear him, by all means, check out our YouTube channel. Listen to what he has to say. It's going to be really thought-provoking. And he's saying that their expenses are so high. And even though they don't really pay their Bethelites right now, they make $120 a month. I mean, that's not a lot of money, but they got room and board, and they get little perks and bonuses here and there. But what Stephen Unthank's saying is that even them working for free labor, it's still costing a whole lot of money to feed them, to house them. So they're making a real concerted effort, and we can see that. I mean, nobody here can deny the fact the Watchtower is changing. You can see them cutting expenses big time. So he's going to be talking all about that on Sunday, which is going to be really, really remarkable. But the reason why I even wanted to talk a little bit today about the 6 screens is because a lot of people would ask me, well, what does it mean? A lot of people say, well, what is the 6 screens? Well, I'll tell you, when you're reading a book, there's chapters in a book. So what you've got here, when I was doing a website, when it originally came out, but it's under construction right now, everything's got a website, but back then there was only a few of them. It really was a premier website. But to tell you what was going on in there is to expose the Watchtower, there's so many categories. Where do you start? Where would you start with it? So we broke it down to 6 screens. What is a screen? A screen is something that somebody could hide behind by definition. So they're hiding behind 6 screens. Now you say, well, what's the topics? Well, what's the Watchtower hiding behind? Well, the Watchtower is hiding behind, number 1, theological teachings and their history. It's inaccurate. And I don't know who Barbara Anderson was, but she had a portion writing part of the Proclaimer's book. But that's a whitewashed version of their history. It's really neat how they show the tombstone, for example, of Charles Taze Russell in Pennsylvania. But they're reluctant to show the pyramid. You know, these are things that the Watchtower will do very cunningly. So there's a lot of history that has been whitewashed, and there's certainly a lot of theological teachings that are totally incorrect. And Jay Hess, if you're around for Sunday, he's going to tell you the biggest false teachings in the Watchtower. So that's screen number 1. Screen number 2 is the dark and tainted secrets. And you know, my former wife and I first came up with this idea. We wanted to expose the Watchtower. I wanted people to hear everything. And we got kind of a bad rap in the beginning for that because there's 2 camps. There's 2 camps in the Jehovah's Witness religion. There's the non-believer camp and the believer camp. But I mean, we're all brothers and sisters exposing the Watchtower. But there's 2 distinct camps. So, you know, when we started getting into satanic ritual abuse, well, that shut a lot off. I mean, people that are not believers, I mean, to have satanic ritual abuse, that's Satan. So if you don't believe in God, you can't believe in Satan. So I would get a lot of flack for that. So, you know, Rick, don't talk about satanic ritual abuse. And then another thing, don't talk about those subliminal images. We talk about everything. I don't hold back on anything. In fact, we had a woman come on the program. In fact, one of the biggest programs we ever had in terms of listeners, a woman actually, her name was Raven Giuliani. And she came on and she wanted to talk about how she was an automatic writer. You probably never heard the term, but an automatic writer, they write under the influence of Satan, the devil. And she said that her father was an elder in New Jersey, and they would go over to Bethel, mostly on a weekly basis. And she was a young girl, and they would bring her down under the tunnels. Now, when you mention that on the 6 screens, come on, Rick, there's no tunnels under Bethel. Jeez. I says, look, I can't prove it to you, but I'm just, look at, I allow all these people to come on and talk. I'm not gonna, you know, shut them out. Let them talk, listen to what they say. So she says she was taken down there as a young girl, 10 years old, and they would put a little like Red Riding Hood cape and hood on her, you know, and she would go backwards like this, and she would write on paper, and then whatever she came up with, she said the officials of the Watchtower would take that and put it into publications. Now that's hard to believe, isn't it? I mean, I had a hard time believing it too. But anyways, geez, people call me up, Rick, why'd you let her on? There's other people saying, Rick, that was the most fascinating thing. Friends, these guys are steeped into occultism, believe it or not. And even if you're not a believer, you got to say, man, something is really wrong if you look at the history. So, okay, so we talked about that, and we moved up into occultism in the Watchtower. And we've had a number of programs all about that and all of the things that the Watchtower does that is a form of occultism. And we could go on forever about that. But number 3 is occultism. Number 4 is mind control. Do you believe there's some type of mind control going on in the Watchtower? I mean, big time. This man, Fritz Bringmeier, whose talk he had today, he'll be back tomorrow night. You got to be here for his talk. I'm going to bring that up tomorrow night. He's going to tell you some of the techniques they use to control people's minds. So that was number 4. Number 5 has to do with the anxiety and fear. And I forget who was this morning, but they said one of the biggest things when you leave the Watchtower is fear and guilt. And that's what they put on us. A lot of us are here today for that. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what, I'm just getting over it now. But I had to take my conscience out to lunch and shoot it. Because when you leave the Watchtower, I mean, you're so doggone, can I do this? Can I do that? I mean, even when you're in there, it's almost like, geez, you can't even live a normal life. It's everything. You're going to be so blood guilty. I can remember, even they would come out and check your tires at the Kingdom Hall. They had a brother he was like the registry inspector. He'd come out and check the tires on people's cars. The sticker, if you didn't get an inspection sticker, geez, that inspection sticker's out. You got to get that fixed. I mean, what do you really need a religion like this? Do you really need a religion like this? The answer is absolutely not. So that's fear and guilt that they put on people. And number 6, the 6th green level Watchtower has to do with business. It's nothing more than a business. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. The Watchtower right now, and it's been printed in an Irish business news paper. And the Watchtower is worth $7 billion. This is common knowledge. Now, as you all know, they recently set up a firm to invest people's money. And not just Jehovah's Witnesses' money, but they have a firm now where they will actually be your advisor. He'll tell you where to invest your money. And they have a man, his name is Jody Jadell. Now, Jody, he was a big-time banker in Europe, and now he is a governing body member. They just made him a governing body member about 6 months ago. So he's now a member. He's a big-time banker, and they're just doing everything they possibly can to squeeze the Jehovah's Witnesses. So all of this, friends, I mean, you guys did the studying, and I know at times you work as hard as I do, exposing the Watchtower. And you say, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it? Now, obviously, you folks are here because you're activists. You say, man, we got to stop this. We got to do something. But a lot of people, they just get up. Like, for example, I've got 5 children, but 3 of them, they don't want anything to do with it. And I can understand that. They just want to move on. And a lot of you guys too will move on. You're going to get healing, and then you're going to move on and be able to live a normal life. But somewhere there's going to be steps in between, completely getting this garbage out of your head and moving on. So that's what we try to do in the 6 screens. That's what we're trying to accomplish here, is to try to help you move on. Now, any of the speakers that you're going to hear coming on here, approach them and ask them any questions. We got some really good programming tomorrow afternoon. We have Stephanie Carson. She's going to be on here talking about her treks. You've got a lawyers here with her, and you want to hear what she has to say. Sister Willow, she's known as. You got to be here for that. But approach the lawyers. If you have an issue with something happened to you when you were a child, approach them and talk to them. And this lawyer tomorrow is going to tell you all about what's going on in the Watchtower. So, that's going to be very credible, because I'm sure there's a lot of people even listening online right now. Oh, there they go again. They're talking about some of this stuff, sex trafficking and what have you. Well, they discount it. But this stuff goes on, and it now is right in the public's eye. Jeffrey Epstein, we know all about him, right? I mean, everyone knows what's going on. Government officials, religious officials, movie stars, all of this. So they're going to be talking about that tomorrow. You do not want to miss that. But anyways, I really appreciate the audience here. You look very attentive, and I know a lot of people are tired. A lot of people are tired, right? In fact, I just got off the phone. There's still people stranded at the airport. And in fact, I also was another woman called me. She said, Rick, I had to go home. I was on my way here and had to go home. She said that the plane was canceled with big thunderstorms here, but a bunch of people got kind of bound up into all of that. So she was so disheartening because she was so anxious to get here, and now they had to go home. But I want to thank you all. I know you made a real effort to do it too. It's not easy, friends. It's expensive. At the same time, it's very, very difficult traveling and what have you. But thank you for taking the effort to be here. I really sincerely mean that. We all love you here. We want you to move forward. And we got a man coming up now. Where is Tommy? Tommy, now you're going to want that whiteboard, right? G, would you help Tommy put that board up there? That we have an easel there and we have a whiteboard over there. You don't need it? Okay. All right. This is Tommy Desky.
Before we get started, I would like to thank Rick for the opportunity to be here with you today and address the broken children of the Watchtower. Now, I don't say that so much as a sentiment as maybe it is a destination for where we end up. I want you to think about, and if you'll take just a minute or two, go into your own mind and think about the road that you took to get to this time, to this space, right here, right now. There's a lot of pain in this room. Of course, you already knew that because you've lived through it. Each one of you has a different story. That story has its own blood, its own sweat, and its own tears. I don't know what all of your stories are. You don't know my story either. But we know these stories because we have lived these stories as the lost children of the Watchtower. You didn't set about to get lost, did you? It just kind of happened progressively. You know, it's been my experience. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. And it's been my experience that as a Jehovah's Witness, your experience is directly related to the body of elders that you serve with. And if these men were loving, perhaps you may have even seen Rick serve as an elder. If they were loving, your experience was different than if they were not, right? Your experience would be different if the brothers that dealt with you did not run roughshod over you. So we don't all come to the same room with the same story, do we? But we still are here in this room. And we have to deal with whatever crap has been put upon us. That's where we're at. And the question, though, for each of us is, how will this define us? What do we do with this experience? Because for many of you, and I listened this morning, so many stories are tragic. You can't even put words into it. It breaks your heart to just hear these things said. And yet we're all here in this room and we're wondering, you see, you had one or two experiences leaving. It was either, oh, really? Or the collective WTF. What just happened, right? We look for answers. We want to know why. Because as my brother was up here a little earlier, he put his heart into it. This guy truly cared. And yet many of you probably truly cared as Jehovah's Witnesses. There's a woman here that I met earlier. I don't see her. Her name is Sue. She came in here from Australia. 24 hours in the air. Now, if you talk to her, what she'll tell you is that she was a regular pioneer for 40 years. And then 6 is a special. Now, for some of you, you know exactly what that means. And depending upon where you were within the structure of the Watchtower as a witness, That might mean more things to some than to others, but that is a sacrifice. And you know what, guys? You know who she did it for? She did it for Jehovah. You think she did it for the Watchtower? She probably thought she did it for the one. But we all come to this place where we have to reconcile what it is that just happened to us. We have to go there. We have to walk that road. And it's different for all of us. And if we don't keep it in perspective, you know what it can do? You know what it does do? It tears your life apart. You end up shackled to a belief system that no longer serves you. And even when you leave and you think, okay, I'm out, if our life's purpose is to simply rue what we went through, have we profited at all? And that's not to make light of the things that you've been through, but it's a truism. You all have been damaged in ways that are different from each other. Yet, if we don't assume that we must be our own hero in our own healing journey beyond the tenets of where you find yourself now, what happens? What happens to the rest of your life? Now, to kind of put all of this in perspective, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am, my background, and then I'd like to take you to a place where you can actually look at where we are and who we are in the perspective of the cosmos, right? Because that's really, unless we can see where man is in the spectrum of time, right? We don't know where our place is, and we need a place, don't we? Don't we need a place? I see some head shaking, but some people aren't really sure. We need a place, guys. We need a place. Do you know what? We already have a place. We just haven't claimed it yet. Can you feel that? That's where we're at. That's why you came from all over the world to be here with us today to hear this. I'd like for you to think about the fact that we're here for about 80 years. And you see, your suffering to you is paramount. Eckhart Tolle says that we take trauma and we place it in our pain body. And we hold on to it. And then we decide what to do with it, how to process it. And that journey is different. But now think about this. Think about this. You see the screen right over here? I want you to imagine each pixel on that screen represents part of humanity. And the whole of the screen makes up all humanity. A pixel. And you know what a pixel does on a screen? When it has the right signal, it will actually put a picture, see, like you see here. But if Rick was to remove the signal, you know what you would see? White noise. Noise. And what does that mean? That's what you hear most of the time is noise. We get very little signal because when there's a signal that defines a pixel on a screen, it has purpose. You follow that? It actually makes a video that you can watch. And so they transmit some signal from over here and place it over there, and your mind allows you to see it because you can identify the signal in the pixel. Now, each one of us here, we can either echo noise or signal in our own reflection of light. Because no matter what however you came out of the Watchtower, you have some semblance of light in you. You learned some good things that were there, even though you may not, maybe your experience there was different. But we all came away from it with our own experience. And it wasn't, for me, and I must say, my experience at the Watchtower was not terrible. It was not. I was raised in South Louisiana, born in New Orleans, lived in Texas for many years, served as an elder there, dealt with many matters, dealt with my own tribulations associated with the Watchtower. But overall, I had a pretty good life there. But I'll tell you what happened for me. I began to see how many elders, men of God, dealt with the sheep. And it was continual inconsistency in love. I could even remember as a child being at the Kingdom Hall, and brothers would say something about that. That's not very loving. This is why Jesus said, have the mind of a child, right? Because children innately know things that our programming tends to dismiss. We lose it somewhere in this journey. And if you've got people beating on you, and you got people telling you to get out, you don't belong here, which happens. I was talking to a young man here earlier today. That was his whole experience. And even though it wasn't mine, I believe him, because you know what? I saw it. I saw it happen to other young people as I was growing up. And then as an elder, I watched other young people continue to do it to other young people. And then you end up, here's a child who maybe is seeking the light to be good. They actually wish to be a good witness, or they wish to be a good person. We can probe this beyond the witness world, because it's much bigger than just this, right? Because spirituality and understanding it really shouldn't be that difficult. But what happens is we get in these belief systems and we become shackled to them in so many ways. Big old shackle. And we don't really see it until all of a sudden you're out. And think about this. You think about people who come and then they leave. And as Rick was pointing out, that's a big back door. People are leaving the whole time. It's just wide open back door. You come in, you go out. Come in the front door, go out the back door. And these people leave, and yet are still affected by what happened. They hold on to it, right? And it affects our ability to move on. Think about this. Think about what you were taught. The Bible, greatest book of all time. Yet, lost child, it's not for you. The book wasn't yours. They wrote that for somebody else. You see, and when you believe, now think about it. You come to the place where you believe the Bible's the most significant book in the world, and yet it was written for someone else. It was written for an anointed person. And then of those, there's only, 8,000 of them, remnant here. It defies logic when you stop and think about the doctrinal verses. So, but if we leave, and it's important to us to look back and say the truth. We use these words. My friends, if you unshackle from the Watchtower, you have to let it go. That's going to mean different things for different people. Have to let it go, or at least as much of it as you can to live an authentic life, because that's what we should be doing. And even though we've been here and there's so much pain, there is hope to look forward to and to find ourselves in. We are not helpless. We are not hapless. In fact, if you'll think about it, you are the children that stood up, right? Enough with the carnage. It's enough. So to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing and how we hope we might be able to help, right? There are enough of you here who do an excellent job at exposing what needs to be exposed and have done it for decades now. we're looking at doing something a little different. What is it that you lack? Think about this. You personally, I travel the country on business, and it's amazing the amount of ex-witnesses I run into all the time. I actually stopped by ARE in Virginia Beach. That's Edgar Casey's center, and I don't know how many of you might understand or know who Edgar Casey is. If you haven't or don't know who he is, I encourage you to do a little research on Edgar Casey. The woman running the organization was an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and I only got to know that after I introduced myself to her. So you move through circles, and what you find is that you run into people just like us all over the place. And you know what? They're hungry, and they feel hopeless. Do you know why? We have no community. You have each other, but what about locally? Where is our tribe? You want your spirit to thrive, you need a tribe. You know why they removed the tribe? Because they don't want you to thrive. Who is your tribe? Right, the 12 tribes of Israel. They leaned on each other. They married within each other. They did business with each other. They were encouraged to educate themselves. It was vastly different maybe than your experience from the Watchtower. But here we are with no tribe. Here we are with a spirit that desires to thrive. And yet, really, we still struggle to find our place. Don't we? And you know, we sat through so many meetings, and you learn so much doctrine. How does it serve you now? Seriously. How does that doctrine serve you now? Is your spirit enlightened? Are we struggling to find our place? We need a tribe. And we need our spirit to thrive. This comes through healthy, deliberate, personal application of spirit. And somehow we've even lost what that means. You know, as an elder, I sat many, many times and we would consider the qualifications of brothers. Bring them in. So let's talk about Brother Smith. Was he ready to be a ministerial servant? Well, you know, 10 hours a month. He's studying with his family. He places the magazines. Oh, he's a spiritual man. Do you know how many times I sat in a meeting and we actually opened the Bible and we went to Galatians 5:22? Zero. How many of you elders? Zero. How many times did you say, look, let's look at the fruits of the Spirit and see where this man is at spiritually? But the fruits of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faith, meekness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. Never. Not once. And it wasn't because the brothers weren't desirous. They're misdirected. Because spirit doesn't come from placing magazines. Right? You don't get to be a spiritual man because you're at the top of your game in the society's programs. That's not what it is. That is spirit. Can you imagine a world where we didn't have to have doctrine, but every one of us every day decided, you know what? I want to be an example of love. I'm going to be an example of joy. I'm going to be an example of peace. I'm going to be long-suffering. And how about this one? I'm actually going to be kind. How many times have you been in a congregated throng and Sister so-and-so says something unkind? This is a big problem. Brother so-and-so says something that takes your peace. You see, the truth of the matter is that the spirit is very simple to understand because all we have to do is look for the tools in the light, right? If you see that people are acting lovingly, they probably have God's spirit. If they're not, They don't. And what I find very interesting, and when you look at it, what doctrinal, a scriptural point of view, do you know when you go to Genesis and you begin to look at the creation account? Long before the sun and the earth, where the scriptures say that the light and the dark were created. What do you think that means? Think about it. People either act in the light or in the dark. All of their actions sum to one of those places. And when we get studied enough and we understand ourselves enough to know where we're going, we can easily see that a brother has our best interest at heart. I can remember when I was a young ministerial servant, probably 21 years old, there was a brother who I loved dearly. He was like a spiritual father. His name was Ulysses Ashton Sr. You might know Ulysses Ashton Jr. if anyone at Bethel, because he was there for many years. But Ulysses told me as a young man, he said, Tommy, if the brothers know you love them, you can tell them anything. But if they question whether or not you love them, you can't tell them anything. Right? Because when someone comes at us and we know they are not coming from a center of love, our immediate reaction is to push back. And we find ourselves here in this place. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we're trying to do and ask for your help. You're going to hear a discussion later in the program from a gentleman by the name of Weldon Long. Wally. Now, Wally is a friend of mine who grew up in South Louisiana as a witness. And his life is remarkable. I would encourage you, if you're interested, to look at weldonlong.com. Wally is a professional speaker. He, in fact, was raised as a witness, disfellowshipped. His life is extremely interesting. I know you'll enjoy hearing it. But what we've decided to do, my friends, is to launch a nonprofit website that will be social media in kind and allow you to put yourself there on the website, your page, speak your truth, and at the same time have halls of learning and discussion where you will be able to go and read about various subjects that may interest you. Because what has happened is this study of energy, we're beginning to see that our entire paradigm with the way we see the scriptures is changing. And we have no choice in this. You can deny whether or not there's an energetic body and whether that body can be manipulated and remove emotional trauma. These are all real things. And you can question it. Oh, because of our background. I recall as a youngster in South Louisiana, we actually talked about the spirit. We talked about spirit in the dark, spirit in the light. And at some point, I can't remember when, it was sometime in the 70s, maybe late 70s, but hey, don't talk about that. Demons don't like it when you talk about them. Don't talk about the angels. That takes away from. But you know what? The scriptures use the term Elohim. And so that means that whatever is there, universe, Buddha, Allah, you decide what fits your world, right? But the truth is that there's something greater than ourselves, and we need to identify it. We need to be able to look at it, because intellectually, we have hit the pinnacle. But right above that intellectual point is the development of spirituality, because it sits on top of intellectualism. And the great minds who abandoned this thought maybe 300 or 400 years ago, the scientists who decided that God didn't exist and that the world should exist in atheism, they are now pivoting back. You have guys like Joe Dispenza, you've got Greg Braden, you've got a lot of bright minds on the scene right now that are helping us to look at and re-identify what we should actually be looking at. I want to remind you of one thing, because it's my experience in reading the Bible. And look, you want to debate doctrine, we can do that. I'm not really into that, but I can do it. But Jesus Christ on earth, remember when he was at the well with the woman? you know, and he approached her. He wasn't supposed to because she wasn't a Jew. So he broke all of these cultural things, right? Things you're, as a Watchtower told not to do. Oh, you can't do this. You can't. But Jesus did. Walked right up to her, started to talk with her. And she perceived what the scriptures say she perceived he was a prophet. And he said to her something very, very interesting. He said, the hour is coming, and it is now, when you'll neither worship in this mountain or in Jerusalem, but you will worship with spirit and truth. You came here to tell your truth. The question is, where are you on the spirit? Right? Where are you with that? And that's a personal decision. Nobody came here to tell anybody what they need to believe or not believe. We've had enough of that. Had enough. You don't have to do that anymore. But you have to open your mind. And the reality is that as children, lost children of the Watchtower, we were not taught to be open-minded. Were we? In fact, we were taught to be closed-minded. And so the idea that we come here and we now think, well, maybe there's something more to it. I was asked, I have this little bracelet. Somebody asked me a little earlier, hey, does that work? I said, depends on you. Depends on your mind. Right? It only works for you if you let it. So I'm going to ask you to open your mind up. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the website. It is called unshacklethespirit.org. Unshacklethespirit.org. And with the website, we're also going to release a magazine that will come out bi-monthly. It's called Spirit Thrive. And the editor-in-chief is an ex-witness. Her name is Dr. Christina Melanson. And Spirit Thrive will focus on articles that will help your spirit thrive. Now, understand, this is not just a Watchtower thing, because religious abuse is rampant. We just are here as children of the lost children of Watchtower. But if you think it's not happening to the Mormons, to the Mennonites, the Swedenborgians, all the Yahweh religions, Catholic Church, the Pentecostals, man, this problem is bad. You know why they attack the children? Because we never get them back. That's a demonic group, right? They know that. Get the child. Get the mind of the child. Because remember, Jesus said, hey, let the children come to me. Why? Because children have imagination. And do you know when you take the Gutenberg Bible and you open it to Genesis 8:41, do you know what the word is there? See, the Watchtower used the word, the inclination of man is bad from his youth up, which tells you you're a bad person from the time that you're young. But the reality is that word was imagination. The imagination of the heart is bad. So what does that tell you? You got to wrap your head into that, Rick. You got to wrap your head into what the imagination of the heart is. Because if you can imagine things into reality, now that sounds so strange, doesn't it? Imagine something into, but that's what the book said. And you got to remember, we're dealing with the spirit, and these things are things that we can't fully understand. But Jesus said it, that we would worship with spirit and truth. I ask you only to open your mind. That's it. Open your mind to things that perhaps as a witness, you were bamboozled into not ever accepting. And what you're going to see in Spirit Thrive, these are people, in fact, we're going to release the premiere edition here. I have an assistant. She's not in here. I don't know what happened to her. But what we're going to do is we'll take your name. Oh, she's in the back. There she is. Stand up. Stand up, Sam. That's my beautiful niece who accompanied me here. She's got a book, and if you're interested in the magazine Spirit Thrive, give her your name and your email address, and we'll be delivering this magazine before the end of the event. And we'd like for you to see it. And what you're going to see in it, most everyone in it has some affiliation to you, to your tribe, to your people. There's a couple of persons that are in it. And what we're hoping to do with this is to show ways that we may be able to heal, right? And it's not you're not going to go there and find a lot of, condemnation of the Watchtower or any particular religion, because that's not what the tool is for. The tool is for your healing, should you choose to use it. It's really up to you, right? You can decide if you are interested in that or not. But I can tell you, Dr. Malasol uses many different energetic type healing techniques to remove trauma from our energetic body. There will be others writing in it with more traditional type of therapies. I know there's a poem in there from Marjorie Cohen who put it in there, and there's some other articles. It's just the premiere. And what we're looking for is your support. You have stories. You may decide that you would like to submit articles to the magazine, and we invite you to do that if you're open to it. At the same time, with regards to the website, what we envision there is that there will be paid contributors. Now, I mentioned Wally Long. Now, when you see Wally and you see his story, you'll understand Wally will be our benefactor, because you're asking, okay, how are you going to pay for all of this? Mr. Long, because of his experience, has decided to help us to get this off the ground. And it is a nonprofit. It will only function as a nonprofit. But what we're hoping for, with your participation and the participation of your Mormon brothers and so many others who have been hurt at the hands of religious abuse, what we're hoping is that it will give you a place, and we'll be able to organize ourselves around such a place, right? There's no desire to decide what you should be reading or what you should be thinking. This is a place to do business. This is a place to meet and to greet and to come to know one another again, because this is what we miss, right? We miss each other. We miss each other's company, and we miss the time that we spend with each other in a healing environment, an environment where we can remember who we are, right? So if you would, if you're willing, we humbly ask for your support, because what we're hoping for is a grassroots effort to put us in a place where we know who we are. Remember that we have each other and that we can help each other heal in a very productive and positive way. The worst thing that happens to a lost child of the Watchtower is to get out. And you heard Rick go through the 6 screens. Very nicely done, by the way, my brother. Appreciate that. The worst thing that can happen. See, some people get out and they break free and they never think about it again. Good for them, right? But that's not all of us. Some of us get stuck in a place where we just have to make sense of what happened. That's where we need each other in a healing way, a very positive way, where we're supporting each other. So we hope that these vehicles will give you the opportunity to tell your stories. The stories that you tell on 6 screen, we're hoping to be able to come together and support each other in the way that we need to support each other. Why? Why should we do it? Rick, why should we do it? Yeah, heck yeah, this is a discussion.
We didn't have real friends. We didn't have real brothers and sisters.
We had Channel C though, right?
Pardon?
Channel C and Rosie.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
Channel C,
Channel C?
Rosie. She died.
You know what's funny to me, Rick? It seems to me, and I see Mrs. Anderson back there. This movement seems to be directed by our sisters in many ways. Those that are standing up and putting them on the chin. It's our sisters, right? Here's a sister, you know what? Yeah, I'm not going to wear a mask. Yeah, you're questioning the governing body? Hell yeah, I'm questioning the governing body, right? So the fact is that, you want to come up here, Angela? It's okay. But I do want to give support to our sisters, because you're showing the brothers how to act. You hear that again? You're showing the brothers how to act. We don't have enough men. We didn't have enough men in the organization, right? And so here we are on the outside. We need to act like men and women, handle our business, and get some shit done. Is that okay, Rick? Is that okay? All right, that's all I have to say. Look, if you want to support us, you can see Sam, you can see myself. You can write to me at redemptive, redemptiv.son@yahoo.com. And I would love to hear from you if you're so, and I would humbly ask again for your support in what we're trying to do, so as to complement what Rick's trying to do. And quite frankly, we haven't even mentioned Alan Smith over there. He's got a lot he's trying to work on to bring some solidarity to our community and to bring us together on a more regular basis, so that we will rub elbows again and come to know and love each other like we used to do when we were accepted children of the Watchtower. It wasn't all bad, right? I'm about to relinquish the mic, Angela. Okay, I'm sorry. You and I could talk about that at another time. There are many who were never accepted. Micah is here. I don't see where he's at, but he was telling me his story. There are many of you children who never got a shot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, because it never should have been that way. And I'm sorry for any duplicity that I may have had in any of that. So, Rick, I'm done. I'm going to yield back the mic to you, sir. And again, I thank you for the opportunity to address this throng.
Thank you, Tony. Before I introduce the next speaker, I just feel moved to say something. I had the privilege and the honor to meet and work with Inez Fran. She was a beautiful, beautiful woman. Very soft-spoken, very spiritual. Her spirit just moved you. She had the most beautiful, beautiful blue eyes that you've ever seen. And every time that she talked about Jesus, her Lord and her Savior, those beautiful blue eyes would well up. And you could see the love that she had for Jesus in those beautiful blue eyes. She was an amazing woman, a wonderful, wonderful woman. And her and Rick used to go everywhere together. And she blessed me and my wife and my family with her spirit. And I remember we used to go on the protests, and sometimes she could stand, and sometimes she'd just sit in the van. But she was always there. And I would make a point to bring up Jesus, and you would see the love that that woman had in her eyes. She was a beautiful, beautiful woman. And I'm glad to have known her and that she's blessed my life. And I'm glad Rick has found Susan.
God, Mom had breastfeed
Two beautiful women.
Susan and I have been married for 11 years. We haven't had one argument. I'm serious. I can imagine that. One argument in 11 years.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, and Susan is just a wonderful, wonderful wife to Rick. And she has also blessed us mightily. Standing behind a strong man and just supporting him at every step of the way. She also has made Rick prosper and helped this ministry and helped all of you. Rick has been blessed with two wonderful, wonderful women. And I just wanted to acknowledge that. Our next speaker is a former Jehovah's Witness, or a former ministerial servant. You're not still a ministerial servant, are you? A man that I've grown to know and love, an amazing, amazing man. Richard Dick Borghi lost everything, his marriage, his house, his children, and as a result of being disfellowshipped, he suffered an unbearable guilt and decided to do the unthinkable, and we'll let Dick handle the rest.
Well, good afternoon, church. So nice to see all of you here. And I'd like to echo the sentiments of Norma just now. I knew Arnez Sarin, a very good friend of mine. Rick used to prepare a talk, the Up Room Ministry, and I was fortunate to be able to buy some Dunkin' Donuts and sit there with her for an hour. She told me what a loving husband Rick was. So I just want to echo those sentiments that Norma just told us about. The year was 1956. I was 8 years old, and the family directly across the street from me had a son in the Marine Corps, and he had just served in the Korean War. When he came home, everybody wanted to shake his hand. Everybody wanted to have a picture taken with him. He'd come out of his house in those dress blue uniforms with all the medals and the sword and a nice big white hat, and he looked very impressive. And everybody spoke of him in a really high regard. We were all Catholic at that time, and everybody at church used to shake his hand, and I said to myself, someday that's going to be me. This is what I want to be when I grow up and graduate from high school. I want to be a U.S. Marine sergeant. So when I graduated from high school in '67, I joined the Marine Corps. My parents were raging at me because, it's a guerrilla war, and Marines are noted for fighting in guerrillas wars, and a lot of boys were killed in 1967, the year I enlisted. So I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and sure enough, right over to Vietnam I went. I was a 19 or 20-year-old lance corporal at the time. And when I got to Nam, and I have no war stories to tell this audience or anybody else, but there's something that I experienced that really shook me to the core. We were going through a little village, and we're on patrol. I was a lance corporal at the time. And we had this stench coming at me. I didn't know what it was. And as we get closer, I could see it was a big garbage dump. And the smell was so bad, when you took a whiff of it, it felt like somebody punched you right in the nose. It was really horrendous. It'd make you vomit just smelling it. And as we get closer and closer, I saw these kids playing in the garbage dump. And I was like, I've expected to see some nasty things over there, because the guys that live in your barracks, they tell you about it, and then you experience, so you knew it was coming. But I never knew that was coming. These children are playing in the garbage dump. But then I seen one little girl pick up a piece of meat. She wiped the maggots off of the meat, started eating it. And I said, I looked up at heavens. I said, damn it. Don't you know what's going on down here? When are you going to do something about this? When I was that age, I was chasing the ice cream truck, and these kids are chasing the garbage trucks, dumping the garbage. And they're orphans. They just wanted to have somebody to hold them and look at them and talk to them nice, and they weren't going to get that. They weren't going to get any of the nice things that I had. So that really impacted me. So when I get back from, I'm sorry. When I get back from I was stationed at Quonset Point, Rhode Island. It's a Navy station. And I was on honor guard duty. It was pretty good duty for Marine Corps. And my sister was a junior in college, and we lived in Massachusetts, Drake, about 10 miles from here. And she was studying the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses. So I used to get these 96-hour passes from base. And she said, oh, Dick, she said, please sit in on a Bible study with me. Sit on a Bible study. She said, well, I want my fiance to get into this because I'm really into it. He said, you know, do you have any plans for tonight? Well, yeah, my plans were to go to a strip club and maybe I get lucky at a couple of nightclubs. That was my plan. He said, no, you owe me a favor. Okay. So I sat in on the Bible study, and you know, the brother opened up with the prayer, and I was rolling my eyes, and my former brother-in-law was rolling his eyes, and you know, we thought, well, let's get this hour over with really, really quick. And so the brother said to me, he said, Dick, I understand you just came back from Vietnam. I said, yeah, just a few months ago. And he said, you know, I bet you saw some horrible things over there. I said, well, nothing I really want to talk about, because I understand. He said, you know, if everyone in the world was a Jehovah's Witness, there wouldn't be any wars, because there would be nobody to fight them. I said, whoa, that really hit home. Then he said, you know, Revelations 21:4, the pain and suffering will be no more. And I thought, I saw pain and suffering of children that shouldn't be experiencing that. I've seen kids eating garbage. And well, there'll be a time when that won't exist. I'm getting really kind of excited about what I'm learning. He said, but there's something else you should know. That in a few short years, this is 1970 now, in a few short years, Armageddon's going to come. It's definitely going to come. See this truth book written by Jehovah's Witnesses, the governing body, right here. It's definitely going to come in the fall of 1975. I said, gee, you know, sounds reasonable to me. So I went to the Kingdom Halls every other week when I get the duty off. And I was seeing that nobody was taking donations at the Kingdom Hall. I'm thinking, well, it's just maybe they aren't after the money like all these other religions are. There might be something to this. So I'm studying, and I'm getting more. I'm telling guys at the base all about Jehovah's Witnesses. And my first sergeant called me in, and I was a corporal then. And he said, you're going to be meritorious promoted to a sergeant. It was what I was wanting to be since I was 8 years old. I wanted to be a Marine Corps sergeant. But now I was deeply indoctrinated in the Watchtower. And it's like, I can't have it both ways. I can't be serving in the Marine Corps and serving in the congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. Can't have it both ways. So I told the first sergeant, I don't want to be promoted. What I really want is out. And he was like, oh, really? Well, get the hell out of my office. So I did. And from then, the last 2 or 3 months of my time in the service, I lost my rank. I lost corporal, lost BFC, Lance Corporal. You know, I got busted down because I had a really, really terrible attitude towards the Marine Corps and doing my duties. Okay. So after that, I decided, take my discharge and get out of the Marine Corps. And I'm still studying with Jehovah's Witnesses. I had a girlfriend that I knew since high school. We were both into athletics in high school. And I really loved her. She was a pretty blonde.
When you for a moment, you come close to you again.
What?
Does it go any higher? So come close to it. Yeah, come close to it. Yeah. To here, yeah, like that.
Okay, thanks. So anyway, her name was Paula. She was beautiful, and I loved her, and we had a lot in common. And like I said, we graduated from high school together, and we were studying the Truth Book. I started studying while I was in the Marine Corps. I started studying after the Marine Corps, and I'm studying with a couple named John and Rose Netto, and she was studying with Rose, and I was studying with John. And we're getting pretty much through the Truth Book and thinking about baptism at the time. And I was thinking, if she got baptized, I would get baptized. I'd propose marriage, would be married, and would be Jehovah's Witnesses, would go pioneering and all the stuff that JWs do. So I go to pick her up one time for her Bible study, our Bible study. And she said to me, Dick, I'm not going to stay with the Jehovah's Witnesses any longer. I said, what are you talking about? He said, oh, it's a fraud. He said, my parents had the Catholic priest up to the house, and he talked to me for hours about what a fraud JWs are. They're false prophets and all this stuff. And I thought, oh, Paula, it's the truth. Armageddon's going to come here in 2 or 3 years. And she says, you go study with them, but I'm not going to. I'm done with that. You can go study if you want. So I can remember driving over to my my Bible study with John. When I walked in, you could tell I was very upset. He said, what's wrong? I said, well, Paula says she's not going to study the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses. She wants nothing to do with it. And John says, well, I'm really, really sorry to hear that. He says, she knows the truth. And Armageddon's right around the corner. She's going to die. Yes, she's a pretty woman, but she's not going to be pretty when her corpse is lying in the sun and the birds of the air picking her eyeballs out. And I'm going, that's a heck of a thing to say to somebody because he was in love with somebody, like that. Well, so what I'd like you to know is when I came back from Vietnam, I had PTSD. I didn't know what it was. Nobody ever talked about it. And it's post-traumatic stress disorder. And how it affected me when I came back from Vietnam is when I got home, I'd be watching TV. My favorite shows were I Love Lucy and The Red Skelton Hour. And I used to laugh so hard, my sides would hurt. I'm sitting there watching both of those shows, and I'm just deadpan, no affect. My spirit was dead inside, but I didn't know it. And I would say to anyone listen to my voice out at home in the audience, that if you believe that Armageddon was going to be the worst event to hit mankind's history so bad that no flesh would survive, there's an extremely good chance that you have PTSD and don't know it. You looking in the Paradise Earth book or any of the many publications that the Watchtower has put out, where you see firebombs coming out of the sky, you see the ground opening up and children falling in it. There's a very, very good chance you have PTSD, and you maybe should find a Christian counselor to get you out of it. Or if you can't do that, 6 Greens will help, and a lot of these YouTube channels will also help with that. So I had to break up with Paula, even though I loved her. And then it came to a point where I had to, I was ready for baptism. And my father said to me, listen, I know you're going to leave the Catholic religion. If this is what you want to do, that's fine. But don't let anybody talk you into doing something you don't want to do. So be sure about this commitment that you're going to make. I said that I think I'm really sure, but I really wasn't. I really wasn't sure. So you all remember the Bible story of Jericho, where the Israelite army marched around Jericho 7 times. The walls came down, and the Israelite soldiers, ran over the bricks and the walls and killed everybody there. They killed women, children, dogs, cats, anything that was alive that they could kill, they killed it. And there was a person in the Israelite army who his name was Achan. You weren't supposed to take anything out of that city. Everything had to stay there. Well, he saw this gold breastplate, and evidently it was quite valuable. So he took it and he hid it in his tent. And subsequent to that, the Israelite army started losing all the wars that they were involved in, all the battles. And they were getting decimated. So the Sanhedrin, I guess, all got together and they said, there's got to be someone who's done something wrong. So they did an investigation. I don't know how they did that. They did an investigation. They found out that Achan had stolen the breastplate. They killed Achan. They killed his family. And I always had that in the back of my mind, because when I was in Nam, there was a place called Happy Valley. They were being facetious calling Happy Valley. A lot of combat there, a lot of people killed, a lot of people went home with body bags during that time. Anyway, so I always had in the back of my mind about getting baptized. Well, anyway, I'm sitting in the auditorium getting ready for baptism. I had my towel and my bathing suit all wrapped up, and I'm all ready to go to get baptized. They had a drama, and in the drama, they had the walls of Jericho falling down. Everybody marched around it 7 times, and everybody that was in there get killed. When I was in Nam, in this Happy Valley, there was a place called, some of you maybe remember this if you're in the 60s or 70s age, like I am. Milai, there was a massacre. There was some small arms fire shot into a platoon of army soldiers, and they got pretty angry because a couple of the guys were killed, and they wiped out the whole village. Hundreds, just killed them. And there was a big scandal. Remember Lieutenant Calley and people like that. It was really a bad scene. So I'm there thinking, wait a minute. God's people don't go to war, because if you get drafted, you go to jail instead of being drafted. Jehovah's Witnesses don't go into the military, and they're God's people. But these people in ancient Israel, they're God's people too. But they were involved in all kind of cardinal warfare. They killed a lot of people. I can understand if Jehovah, like in Sodom and Gomorrah, if he wants to destroy those people, well, let him do it. But don't have the rank and file go out there and kill people. At least that's what they did in the days of Israel and in the olden days, the Old Testament stuff. Well, I married in 1973. I married a really good woman, very devout Jehovah's Witness. And in 1976, I met Paula again. I was pulling to a gas station, and she was pulling in with her new boyfriend. And I was face to face with her and across the island. And she was driving a convertible, or her boyfriend was. And she says to me, Dick, we're still here. She didn't say hello, I haven't seen you in 2 or 3 years. I was thinking, no. She said, Dick, we're still here. Where's Armageddon? Well, where is Armageddon? I mean, I was like, it says in the truth book, a definite time, not a maybe nebulous area, a definite time Armageddon was going to come, and that was going to be in the fall of 1975. There was no doubt about it. Obviously, when that didn't happen, many people left, but us of lower IQ, we stayed in. All right, so right after I met Paula, I met a woman at Holly Davidson. She had a bike, and I did too. And she was telling me what a wonderful motorcyclist, and no big guy could keep up with her and so forth. So I said, well, I'll take that challenge, and I could. So we went right in this town here in Tewksbury, went to the power lines, and we rode up in the power lines. And she was riding ahead of me, and I was staying up with her. And her bike still up the side of the hill, so I shut mine off and got to help her up, picked the bike off her, and got her up. And she kind of like jumped into my arms, and I had a few beers in me. Just no excuse for adultery at all. Just no excuse at all. But that's what happened. I committed adultery, and about 2 months later, I told my wife that I was unfaithful. So I went and talked to the elder that married us, and I said, well, you know, I committed adultery. He said, I'll talk to the other brothers about it, and I'll let you know what happened. There was no committee meeting. There was nothing like that. He came up to me a week later and said, look, you're going to be on restriction for a month. You know, you can't answer at the Watchtower or anything else. And that was fine with me. My wife was pretty gracious. She forgave me, and she knew that she wasn't marrying a virgin. That was for sure. So I was fighting through PTSD and deep depression, and I fell into immorality again about 7 or 8 years later. And I was really felt awful bad because, like I said, my wife Pam was a really good woman, a very devout, good woman. If Elvis Presley offered $1 million to have sex with him, she would say no and slap him in the face. That's the type of woman that she was. But I just said I wasn't cut out for that kind of immorality. So anyway, I hid it. 7 years later, I fall into immorality. I didn't tell anybody because I didn't think, at that time I had 2 children. And I figured, gee, I love my kids. I don't want to go through a divorce. I don't want to lose my house, my job, because all my job was related to the Jehovah's Witnesses. So I was working for an elder. All that stuff was going down, and what am I going to do? So I hid it. I hid it for years. Then one time I'm coming home from work. I lived about an hour from my house, and I just get done thinking what a good wife I had, and what a horrible husband I was, and just what a horrible person. And I'm just loaded with guilt, so much I could handle it. So I started to pray into Jehovah for forgiveness. Father, please forgive me, please forgive me. And I'm crying my eyes out, my shirt's all wet. But the time I get home, and I just kind of dried my tears a bit, I actually had to pull off in a rest area just to get my composure so I could drive the car. I finally get home. I felt this monkey off my back. And I've been relieved. Jehovah's forgiven me. I can feel it. And subsequent to that, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, I get a tap on the shoulder, and I'm singing at the Kingdom Hall. I'm singing a Kingdom song, and one of the elders tapped me on the shoulder, and he says, "You're going to be appointed a ministerial servant tonight." I went, "Oh." That's the verification I really needed, because all these promotions or elevations, servant, elder, circuit overseer, are all supposed to be done by Holy Spirit. Now I've got a double thing going. All right, I can feel the relief. I've been appointed ministerial servant. Okay, so now I'm feeling pretty good, but I don't have to tell my wife. I fell into the same stuff as before. I fell into the adultery thing. So as I was being a ministerial servant, we had a meeting one time with the circuit overseer. He called all of us in the back room, and he said, "The brothers in Bethel governing body want to know how you feel about fellowshipping people that are obese." obese. My wife was about 50 pounds overweight, and that's the criteria for being overweight that they used. And he justified this way. He said, it's injurious to your health to smoke, and being overweight is also injurious to your health. Actually, the Watchtower wanted everyone to look like the master race. So I said that. I never, I didn't think I was too bright, and why should I challenge anything? Circuit overseer says I'm just a ministerial servant. So I said, well, that sounds like the master race to me. And everyone just kind of looked at me like, what the heck is wrong with you? You're only a ministerial servant. And I said, furthermore, I always thought that the Holy Spirit told the anointed what to do, and the anointed here on the earth tell the governing body. Why are we voting on things? And he said, well, we'll work that out. He said, let's have a raise of hands. And I'm looking at all the elders with, slim lives. Well, let's get rid of them. Everyone's overweight. My wife was overweight. My father-in-law, my mother, who I love dearly, they were both overweight. And they wanted to disfellowship them. To me, that doesn't seem right. That's not loving. That's not kind. Well, shortly after that, I entered a business agreement with my brother-in-law, Jordan Cena McDonald from Farmington, New Hampshire. And he said, if I was to take out a second mortgage on my house and give him $40,000, he would start a business and I could be part of it. And he would give me, out of the $40,000, $15,000 to buy a car to use in the business. And he used the rest of the money to buy equipment to run this business. It was kind of a logging company where they sell cordwood and so forth during the oil embargo in the 70s. And there was a lot of oil was very expensive, and burning cordwood saved people a lot of money. So I did that. So what he did is I got my car, and he told me that all the money was going into the business. His wife was pregnant. They were living in a one-bedroom, but they were going to get the business going, and then they'd go out and. But what he did is he took the rest of the money and he bought a house with it, then filed bankruptcy and said, "It's on you now." My mortgage went from $250 a month to almost $900 for the loan on that. I was livid, more than livid. I couldn't dare help him, and he did it on purpose. His wife actually called me up a month or two before they claimed bankruptcy and said the business was so good. They wanted to know if I knew a good travel agent because they wanted to go to Hawaii. It was a fraud. So I told my elders, well, you have to contact their elders. So through my father-in-law, I contacted their elders, and they said, well, we're going to have a judicial meeting on it. I said, okay. In Matthew 18, the first step is you have to take two brothers to witness the sham thing. And if you can't settle it with those two brothers, you have to go to the older men. So I go up there, and I don't know anybody in his congregation. And I get three guys, elders. I didn't know they were elders. I didn't know who they were. And I started telling them, what a scam they did. And the elder started acting like their defense attorney. So, well, you know what? They're using that equipment to help build the Kingdom Hall. Quick build. So I don't care. I'm going to lose my house. My kids are going to be out in the street. But they're building a Kingdom Hall. So what? It's a fraud. Well, you know what? They say they're going to pay you back in 7 years. Well, in 7 years, I'm going to lose my house. I put a lot of money into that house in a bad neighborhood. And I knew I wasn't going to get it back if I ever sold the house. But it was right across the street from the Kingdom Hall, was what I was aiming for. Well, I go to my elders. They're saying, well, just forget about it. Just forget about it. I go to my elders and I told them. They jumped over the second step of Matthew, and they exonerated them of everything. And he even said, I loaned the money to them, and at the rate of interest, it was usury. And they made me the user. Well, I didn't know anything about usury. There was a brother in our Kingdom Hall who managed the apartment complex, very, very Gilead grad and really smart guy who managed an apartment complex. He knew business really well. I was just early 20s. I didn't know that much about it. And could anybody give me some water? I'm just really having a time up here. Thank you. So I go to my elders and I go, listen, this is what they did. They skipped over the second step of Matthew, and they made me the guilty party. I'm losing my house. Thank you, Norm. So much better. And I said, listen, please come up to New Hampshire. I want to confront those brothers. No, we're not going to do that. My elder said, if what you said is true, what those elders did, they should be all deleted as elders. He said, I wouldn't lie to you. I'm asking you to come with me, and I want to confront them. No, we don't want to do that. And, I'm going deeper and deeper and deeper in debt because I can't do 2 mortgages. So I'm really upset. So I said, you got to do something. Brother Borgie, wait for the circuit overseer to get here. He'll handle it. He knows all those elders up there. He knows the presiding overseer. He'll handle it. I said, okay, that's what I have to do. That's what I'm going to do. So 6 months go by, circuit overseer comes. I tell the elders, I got to speak to this guy. Oh, Brother Borgie, listen, this brother's wife left him with kids, and that's more important than your situation. We have other situations we can't tell you about. It's more important than yours. Just forget it. Wait till he comes by the next visit. Well, the next visit, I'm going deeper and deeper in debt. I'm not sleeping. Things are difficult. I was an electronic technician. I used to read schematics all day long. And I used to look at the schematics, and I couldn't make heads or tails of it. My mind wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating. It was just a difficult time. So the second time the circuit overseer comes around, we don't have any time for you, Dick. We just don't have any time for this. You're just going to have to wait till the next time he comes around. So the next time he comes around, I grabbed an elder and I said, look, I'm speaking to this circuit overseer. I have to put him against the wall. I'm telling you, I can't handle it anymore. So we met car groups to go out and service. And the circuit overseer says, Brother Borgie, I heard about your situation. It's all I can tell you. If you take your brother to court, you won't be an elder and you'll lose ministerial servant. And he walked out. That's what I got after a year and a half. I'm losing my house. I'm pretty distraught. I can't do my job. I'm not very happy with myself. I don't like the idea of my kids being on the street. Kind of a so anyway, the George and Sandy thing just passed. I never saw a cent from them. I went so what's happening at that time is congregations, they used to grow really big and split, and then grow really big again and split, and go really big again and split. That's where it was happening all through the 60s with the Truth Book and so forth. Now it's going the other way. They're compressing. This is what they're doing. They're compressing. And people are leaving left and right. So now I'm thinking, I should have confessed all that adultery I had years ago. And it's haunting me now. I must be the one that is the Achan in the congregation. And if Armageddon comes, it's always supposed to come, it's always going to be tomorrow. All my brothers and sisters at the Kingdom Hall are not going to have the Holy Spirit because it's going to be removed from the congregation. That's how they teach. And they're going to be lost at Armageddon. And I'm absolutely, totally guilt-ridden. I should have said something. Now I'm really, I'm in a desperate way. I don't know really what to do. So I confessed to the elders, about the adultery years ago. So they publicly reproved me, and my wife said, you're sleeping downstairs now. So it's just more humiliation, deeper anxiety, deeper depression. You know, my boys looked up at me when I was publicly reproved and just looked at me and just in disbelief that I could be such a degenerate. And they were like 12 and 8 years old. And then, you know, then I was still living at home, and I started to really hate myself. Well, what I did at that point is I got into masochism. Now you have to understand masochism has two different elements to it. One element is some people like to cut themselves and receive pain, and they get off on it sexually. They have a climax and they're relieved. Then there's the other element, which is my element. I wanted to feel pain because I had to get rid of the guilt somehow. I'm killing all these brothers and sisters that I love. That's what Watchtower taught, and I believed it. So then I got. So I told the elders that I got into masochism. So one elder with a 10th grade education says, "Well, you know, that's homosexuality." Well, I'm not homo, queer, or anything like that. None of that. But that's his thinking. He tells that to my wife, I'm sure. And I get kicked out of the house. I'm disfellowshipped. I'm living in an apartment down the street, and I've got nothing. And I still had a job, and I was working for the railroad at the time. This was a good paying job. And I had a Harley Davidson, and I said, you know, my life is over. Lost my house, I lost my wife, lost my kids. My sister don't talk to me. My father's BS at me. You know, it just hurt. And I said, you know, the best thing I could do, since I'm not going to be in the new system, is commit suicide. I had a life insurance policy worth $100,000. Doesn't sound like much now, but back in the 80s, it was a lot of money. And I had a clause on it for double indemnity. So if I died in an accident, my wife would get $200,000. And in Massachusetts, and I had the Harley Davidson. And in Massachusetts, you have to wear a helmet. But in New Hampshire, a short 20-minute ride from where I lived, you didn't have to have a helmet. And I knew a perfect curve in the road. We had a bridge abutment. I was going to take my Harley, crank it up without the helmet, and go right into that wall. I absolutely was going to do that. Actually, absolutely going to kill myself. My wife would have enough money to you know, pay off the house, pay off the loan, have enough money to get my kids through high school. She didn't have to work. My wife never worked. And that was my game plan. That's what I had planned to do. So I wrote letters to both my children and my former wife and my sister, put it in the top drawer of my desk and closed it. And I grabbed my helmet and I started going downstairs. I live on the second floor. And I used to lock my motorcycle up with a big, heavy train that used to pull locomotives with, so nobody could steal it. Well, what the thieves did is they got underneath the staircase, they jacked up the staircase and slid the big chain out, and evidently took a van or a pickup truck or something and put my Harley Davidson in it and took off. So I come downstairs with my helmet in my hand to commit suicide. I absolutely had every intention of doing that. Because, you know, I was going to die at Armageddon anyway, so at least my wife would have some finances. And I get downstairs and the bike is gone. Gone. You know, what do I do? I come back upstairs and I'm thanking Jehovah and asking for his forgiveness for what I've done and all that. And so the point that I want to make is that elders do not forgive sins. They'd like you to think that whatever they loosen on the earth will be loosened in heaven. It's not true. They have no authority. They are not people. They're not psychologists. They're not marriage counselors, not psychiatrists. The three that were on my judicial meeting committee for immorality once stole Snap-on tools. The other drove a school bus, and the other painted houses. And these are the people that you're supposed to go to for advice. Congregate, don't go to a professional psychiatrist, psychologist, because Jehovah is going to tell the elders what they need to know through the Holy Spirit. Well, that's just not true. It's just not true. Well, I had decided at that point that I would try to make all the meetings and get reinstated. Now I'm thinking maybe Jehovah did this, had my bike stolen so I couldn't commit suicide. So I wanted to go to all the meetings and get reinstated. So a good friend of mine, Kenny, he was an elder, and Kenny said to me, Dick, they're never going to reinstate you. I said, well, Kenny, they have to. And he says, no. He said, you've been giving a circuit overseer a hard time. You've been questioning a lot of doctrine. A lot of things were happening in the congregation that weren't fair, and you know about it. So they're either going to make you an elder, and since I said I wouldn't take that job, they're going to have to disfellowship you, and they're never going to reinstate you. Well, I found out that to be true. They're never going to reinstate me. Well, the bottom line is, I lost my marriage, lost my kids. My former wife said to me, I give her the house or what's left of it. And I said, let's don't take my kids to South Carolina. And she said, no, I wouldn't do that. I said, all right, fine. So as soon as she got the house, I deeded it over to her, took the kid to South Carolina. So I went to the elders and I said, she promised. She said, well, you don't have a standing anymore, Brother Bogey. You're disfellowship. You can't make any charges. You're just a nobody till you get reinstated. So I lost my kids because of that. One thing I will tell you, in the 20 years that I spent as a Jehovah's Witness, and I worked for a remodeling company once, and everybody that was in the company, to get a job in there, you had to be either an elder or a servant. And all our subcontractors were plumbers from a different congregation, street rockers from another congregation, roofers from another congregation. It was all brothers. And on nights we didn't have meetings, well, we could knock down some beers. When they put a picture of a beer on the table, I thought everyone would pour a glass. Oh, everybody got a picture. So all of us elders and servants, if we got pulled over, we would have been DWI without a doubt. What I've seen in the congregations is a lot of drinking, a lot of, particularly sisters, popping pills, a lot of depression, lots and lots of pedophilia. They weren't happy people, and they're told after every convention we go to, we're the happiest people in the world. Everybody claps, yeah, we're the happiest people. No, we're not. Miserable people. Believe in a lie, believe in something that's supposed to happen, it's not going to happen. It's just it's just terrible being a Jehovah's Witness and being lied to as often as we were. Most elders aren't professional people. They are people that are window washers, carpet shampooers, house painters. For every person that's a successful elder, CEO of a company, I'm going to give you 20 other elders that aren't successful because the Watchtower tells you not to get an education. I can remember in '76, my dad come over and he said, listen, there's not much work I was good with a rifle, and I was good with a pistol, but unless you're going to be a cop or in the mafia, there's not much calling for that. So you better get yourself an education. So I put an application in for Newbury Junior College, and that's where I went. And I just knew the elders didn't like you to go to college, so I tried to hide it. I used to take my college books and put them in a bag and wrap them up. So because I had a lot of elders that lived in the same apartment complex that I did. Anyway, excuse me a second. This one day, I looked for a brown paper bag to put my books in. I couldn't find one, so I'll take a chance. So I'm going down this little hill to the steps, and sure enough, there's a brother who studied who was a Bible study conductor. So, Brother Boogie, where are you going? I said, I'm going to school. He says, really? What kind of school are you going to? I said, I'm going to Newbury. It's a new business college. He says, what? You're going to college? I says, yeah, I'm going to college. Why would you do that this deep into the system of things? I said, well, listen, Don. I said, you got to understand, I can go on the GI Bill and I can get $450 a month from the GI Bill to go to school. I can pay my rent with that. I could see him going, well, you know what? If you wanted that kind of money, brother so-and-so is a carpet shampooing business. And, you can make some money with him. I said, well, you already approached me and I'll make more money just going to school. And he was bewildered by that. And he said, well, you're going to be with worldly people. I'm just sitting in a class, taking in knowledge. I'm not going hanging around with them. He said, I would really, you're too late in the system to be going to college. Well, yeah, that was 1976. I'm getting income in 75. So there I am, I actually graduated to the dismay of the elders that I had. They weren't too happy with that. I wasn't a good Jehovah's Witness in their minds. So I guess in conclusion, I'd just like you to know that Jehovah's Witnesses, the elders, a lot of them are not qualified to give any advice to anybody for anything. Second thing I'd like you to know is the Holy Spirit does not control this organization or run it. Another thing I want you to know, from my talk is Jehovah's Witnesses do break up families. I know if they had not disfellowshipped me, that I'd still be married to my first wife. I'm just another person that got really, really hurt by this cult. It's run by Satan the devil. I always say there's a spirit in the Jehovah's Witness organization, but it is not the Holy Spirit of our Heavenly Father. It is the spirit of the father of the lie, Satan the devil. That's who runs this organization. Often appears as an angel of light. They get the scriptures that they can go to and so forth. But they misconstrue everything. They just spin everything their way. And that's your Jehovah's Witness organization. One thing, a hallmark of Jehovah's Witnesses is you're going to find perversions, the hiding of pedophilia, money laundering, scams left and right. An organization that would disfellowship you for working in I work for AFCO as a defense contractor. I had to quit, but they have money invested in AFCO and a bunch of other government agencies. Sorry, I forgot the word I want to use, but thank you. That's what it would be, defense contractors, and thanks again. So, anyway, it's not the kind of organization you want to be a part of. And I would charge everybody here, when you're in the Watchtower, they tell you better go out and field service because you're going to be blood guilty. Well, I would just say to everybody here, if you know the truth about the truth, please tell someone. Even if you have to do it anonymously. Write them a note. Tell them to telephone number of 6 screens. Also, YouTube channels have a lot of wonderful content now. And I thank you all for your kind attention.
Yeah, Dick has a bum kneecap, though. All right. Former Jehovah's Witness, Dinah Lost was sexually molested as a young girl that was covered up by the congregation. Dinah's mother was not comfort for her and encouraged her to do more for Jehovah. Dinah found no reason to live and made several attempts to commit suicide. Let's welcome Dinah Lost.
I'm gonna have to adjust this. Sorry. Loudness. Rick. I don't play with these things.
It's bad enough getting up on stage with a
I know.
microphone doing that to you, right? All right, Dana, you come right here.
I'm sure. Okay, there we go.
There you go.
All right. So I've got multiple because this is I'm just gonna keep both of them. I'm just gonna do it that way. So my phone started dying, so that's where my speech is going. So some people are born to be on stage. I was born in the Jehovah's Witness culture, so not exactly Broadway material. So I'm probably gonna read most of it. I cry when you're supposed to laugh, and I laugh when you're supposed to cry. So not sure which emotion is gonna come out, but just bear with me. So part of it, like, I know it seems like I'm strong coming up here, but I'm terrified just talking and telling my story. But I feel that it is important because there are a lot of people like me that were silenced for years. I'm here because I care. So if my voice shakes or I glance at my notes, I know I brought tissues, which I did not. And you've seen the title, so you know it gets heavy. But we'll read through it together with heart, honesty, and flash of humor. Sometimes the truth is so absurd you have to laugh to survive it. Thank you very much. So I'm a fourth generation XJW. My great-great-grandmother was a witness, and she had 2 sons, and they had 4 children each, and they were all witnesses, and they're all still witnesses. So I spent decades living beneath the weight of silence, bound by fear, judgment, and the illusion of appearances. My family still serves. My sister and brother-in-law are dedicated, righteous pioneers who both working remotely for Bethel and pioneering full-time. My parents never wavered. I have uncles who are elders, aunties who are pioneers, and cousins who are all doing special work. Like, I'm the black sheep. Me and my brother, who was disfellowshipped at the age of 19 out of Bethel for something he did while he wasn't in Bethel. And then they kicked him out and he had to come home to the home of shame. So he's the other black sheep of our long family history of Jehovah's Witnesses. At 13, I was filtered into baptized to cope with my molestation and behavioral issues. Well, so they said. They pitched me paradise, live forever, perfect health, no pain. I said yes without fully understanding the lifelong consequences I was signing up for. From that moment on, obedience trumped love. Potential outside friends all vanished. And while I endured unspeakable abuses, kept them inside, and watched the system protect the ones who harmed me instead of the ones who needed saving. Tonight, I share not just my story, but a promise that voices can make a difference. I was molested by two people I trusted. When I finally spoke up, I wasn't comforted. I was scrutinized, shamed, and embarrassed. My abusers, they walked free, left to Jehovah to fix. My cousin violated me around 6 or 8, private elders meeting and perfect little witness family embarrassment buried it. Age 11, another family member abused me. He had abused 2 others before me. They disfellowshipped him 2 years, then quietly reinstated him, and he lived his life out by the beach. But I was told he suffered a lot being labeled a pedophile. I say serial pedophile deserves his few nights in prison, but maybe that's just my trauma speaking. The message was clear: speak up and risk losing everything: family, friends, community, even shelter. They conditioned me to isolate, and when isolation feels normal, it feels safe. But it's a prison. I sank into suicidal thoughts, drove drunk, landed in jail, and attempted suicide multiple times before I was 35. The amount of times I woke up when I felt I wasn't supposed to because I attempted to end my life is suffocating enough. The weight of making an effort to end it all and wake up to it all over again. I once woke up and wrapped a scarf around the cuts that didn't kill me. And I worked 10 hours that day like nothing happened. And that's how it was for me for a time. So I struggled when I heard a governing body member, Brother Winder, say that we don't apologize for not getting it exactly right. If they don't take accountability, the law needs to step in and stop them from making more victims like me. I survived, but some are still suffocating. Control thrives in shadow. Healing begins in light. So if you're one sitting in the back row, you all know what it felt like, where we carried the shame and people looking down on us and we couldn't heal. And we sat back there hidden and hurting, but we're not sitting back there anymore. Exposing the full spectrum of control. Child molestation is one horror, yet it's only one face of a broader oppression. Domestic violence disguised as discipline. The amount of stories that I got physical pain just for not sitting still, just for being a kid. Gaslighting that makes you apologize for someone else's sin. Financial control, that you can't leave if you can't afford it. Social isolation, outside friends labeled worldly. And reality check, 1 in 4 women face domestic violence and 1 in 5 children experience abuse. And that's crazy numbers. And it's not our shame we carried their shame for them. Let's try to change that. My turning point, 20 years physically and mentally in, born into the culture, 15 more physically out mentally in, present but disconnected. Then in 2023, when my mother blamed me for an assault that happened to me. She never asked what happened, assumed I was at a bar, but I wasn't. It wasn't even a party, just a hangout. 3 sips of wine, then darkness, then shame. That message cracked open my grief and my clarity. I saw the wall between us was just emotional. It was doctrinal. Fear and obedience had taught her how not to see me. That didn't break me, though my grief comes from so many directions of PTSD. My mother was my narcissist, but she is no longer with me. She passed away a month ago. But she grew up thinking that she was going to live through Armageddon. She was baptized in 1973. It lit a fire in me that brought me here, and I began advocating for survivors, those who judge silence erased by shame. I met Willa Rose Graves, Stephanie Carson, and she connected me with Travis Walker. And together we're taking legal action against the Watchtower and Bible and Tract Society, not for vengeance, but for truth. If we keep saying that's how it was back then, we'll still be saying it 20 years from now. They took the first half of my life, manipulating and destroying every relationship I had. The grief of knowing every part of me was controlled was overwhelming. At my lowest, I felt powerless and meaningless, only existing to do the will of Jehovah as interpreted by a few men in New York. If God exists, I believe he created multiple perspectives for a reason. It's not about whose view is right or wrong. It's about not being bound by a single angle. Once you realize you can see life through many eyes, the world feels more vibrant. We got to stop letting single-minded viewpoints control us and start doing what's right, what's good and kind. Every time we stay silent, we teach our kids silence equals survival. So we speak now, loud, unashamed, and unified. So you've heard my story in part, but sometimes healing needs words that are spoken with poetry. And I started writing poetry again, really, when I came into the XJW community, because hearing all the stories and all the pain, like I felt that all the time. So this one's called Ripples of Empathy. For anyone who's ever wondered if their tremble mattered. In a world of bitter divisions, we're lost at sea. Boundary-strong currents pulling humanity. Be a ripple of empathy and compassion too. Spreading understanding to see this journey through. I'll share the hard stories and listen to yours as well. In the deafening silence, we'll find a truth to tell. No more judgment labels and no more walls to climb. The beauty of connection intertwined heart and mind. Let's escape the restricting weights and lift up the blinds and find our common ground, leaving the hate behind. We'll stand beyond the noise, beyond the grief, beyond the pain. Be the change, the love, the hope we need to sustain. We are the ripple. Tonight we fill every void with belief, protection, and community. If you've been silenced, speak. If you're unsure, ask questions. If you're hurting, grab the resources that are here this weekend. I know I'm here for some too. You're not alone, we're not alone. I'm here to get some help and support myself because I do still suffer from the weight of it all. I dedicate this fight to every child survivor carrying adult responsibilities and to every voice still locked in silence. I couldn't handle it at first, but I found my strength. You have that strength inside of you too. Stand up for your silent conscience, and together we can make a difference and rise above. Even the smallest ripple, one question, one truth, one refusal to look away can become a wave. So that is all I have for you, except I did do a song because those kingdom melodies I grew up with stuck in my head. So I, along with working with poetry, did the kingdom song. So if you get triggered by the sound of kingdom melodies, it does have the background of the kingdom melody. I don't know if he was gonna be able to play that. Oh, there it is. Great. Enjoy.
All right. Micah Allen, are you here? Okay. Micah, we're going to be actually putting you on later on tonight because right now it's 5:41, and so we'll be taking our dinner break. Rick, is Barbara still coming on at 7?
Yeah.
Okay. So Barbara Anderson will be coming on at 7. Yeah, Emery is 7:45. So if we keep on, it's gonna be 7:45. So we're back again at 7 o'clock for the evening session with Barbara Anderson. Thank you so much.
One. So that's this one. And studio up. Okay, you're live.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm so glad you're tuning in with us. We'll have a big program tonight. We got Barbara Anderson coming on Friday. We're going to have a night session as well. We've got a number of speakers coming on tonight, but at around 9:30 tonight, if you're still with us, we're going to keep the program going. We're going to have Al Smith, the one-man band. He's a Las Vegas show. So if you want to stay in with us, we're going to broadcast it. And we'll kind of leave the camera running here. We're going to go to intermission. We'll speak in from time to time. I hope you're enjoying it. Of course, we're having the different speakers come in. We got, I would say, cumulatively here, we've got probably 250 people on a Friday, and we're expecting around 300, so a little short on that. But of course, a lot of people got stranded. I'm not using that as an excuse, but a lot of people got stranded at the airport. In fact, we're still picking some people up. And some of those flights were canceled. We had wicked thunderstorms up here in Boston yesterday, and a lot of people couldn't come to the convention, so they had to go home. It was a shame because they just couldn't land at Boston, so it kind of messed it up a little bit. But still, I mean, to even have the 200, 225 showing up, and I'd say it could even swell over that today. We get more people coming in now. Of course, on Fridays, that would be the lesser day of the attendees, in view of, people have to work on Friday. So tomorrow we should have a really good crowd here. We're going to have some really good programming tomorrow as well. We have Stephanie Carson. Of course, she was trafficked in the Watchtower. She'll be speaking about that. Her lawyer as well is going to have a talk. And also we have an investigator who's investigating the Watchtower right now. I believe he's a government investigator. So by all means, stay with us, and we'll keep the camera running. Well, I guess he just took it down. He might be just charging it up, I think. But we'll try to keep it up and keep the good things going the best we can to keep a good live stream. So just hang in with us, take a little break, and we'll be back. And if Donald is listening, if Donald is listening, Donald, if you want to give me a call, it's fine, or email me. We're going to find a spot for you. But we ran out. What they were doing here today is they were filming a movie, as we say. It's a major documentary movie. And the movie is dealing all about Jehovah's Witnesses. And what happened is they really took a lot of time this morning, so we got a late start. They wanted to really zone in. They wanted to show us setting everything up. We built a stage here. We got signs. We got a lot of things going on. It took us, we had to come in this morning at 6 o'clock and build the stage and put up a drummer's stand and signs and get the PA system set up. So it took us like 3 hours to do that. We were here at 6 o'clock this morning. So the filming crew, they wanted to film us doing all of that. And so it kind of backlogged us getting started early. We started an hour late. So that's why we had some issues. But for those that were looking for Donald, if he gets a hold of me, we're going to get Donald on here before the program, before the convention ends. We'll bring him on. We'll find a slot for him. It's the speakers are showing up. We have over 40 speakers that have been here. I'm very pleased with, the attendance. We have people from pretty much all over the world, people from the United Kingdom. We've also got a person from, excuse me one second, I just got to get the keys. We have a shuttle service as well. I'm sorry, Scully. You give us, let's see, not this one. I meant to give that to you. Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to be ready just in case. I think it's white.
It is the other one, yeah. It's this one here, yeah.
Yes.
There you go. Thank you. You know what to do, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I had to get the keys. We have a shuttle that's going down to Wendy's and McDonald's. It's a little far walk from here, but we have a shuttle that's bringing them down to the different restaurants in the area. So we're doing that for the people. But we'll have a lot more people coming in tonight and tomorrow, and I hope you guys stay with us. I'm so glad you are with us. This is a first of its kind event, and I can see a lot of people. I like to say hello to everybody. I like to say hello to everyone that's listening in. It'd be impossible to do that. So we're gonna cut it from here, and just stay with us. But we'll be back. We'll be back. I see someone's trying to come on here, but just stay with us, and we'll be back soon. Okay, thank you guys. I'll see you in about an hour and a half, and we'll start again somewhere around 7 o'clock tonight. So looking forward to having you come in. Thank you for joining us today, and I'm going to keep the cameras rolling. So maybe you'll see some things going on in the background. Thank you.
I'll be right here.
And so what we are deciding to do here is to keep things segmented and so everyone can kind of categorize where it was and what they saw. This will be session 1. We'll call it that, Friday session 1. So we're going to end it. Then we'll start another stream for Saturday special session 2, Friday session 2. So I guess we can do that now, Scott. So I guess we can probably, is it possible to have the camera turned around so we can see the audience out there? I mean, if we just do that, right?
Yeah, you can do
All
that.
right, yeah, what we'll do is we'll let you look out at the audience, okay? We'll do that right now.
Oh,
So,
right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're all going to supper, but you can get an idea of what's going on, a little idea what the studio looks like here. Not the studio, but the Hilton Inn, yeah. That's Al. He's going to be doing his Las Vegas show tonight. Yeah, he's the guy with the plaid shirt on. That's going to be him, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm getting calls from them asking, they said, for the Vegas show, they understand you have speakers that aren't here, they're not showing up. That's true?
All right, I'm going to shut it down now. We'll see you guys after dinner.
No, speakers, that's people giving calls.